But it really just hurt my heart. It did. It hurt my heart that she had to sit there and suffer.
Sarah Evans still feels like she's in a dream after hearing reports of her best friend Deja Hood murdered on Tuesday.
I've been making it. I just been asleep, because every time I'm up I think about it. I think about it every second of the day.
My heart just dropped because it was just so unexpected. And then the way she went was like uncalled for, like she didn't deserve that.
What makes someone snap? How does a playful moment between friends turn into an unspeakable act of violence? And how does a trusted companion become the prime suspect in a murder so horrifying it shakes everyone connected to the victim? On a quiet September evening, a young woman vanished without a trace after spending time with someone she thought she knew. Hours later, her lifeless body was found, discarded in the woods behind an apartment complex. But it wasn't just the discovery of her body that shocked everyone. It was what investigators uncovered next. As the layers of this case began to unravel, what started as a missing persons report turned into a story of betrayal, rage, and a desperate act to cover the truth. In this video, we'll take you inside the investigation. We'll follow the trail of evidence that led police to a shocking confession and reveal the final, heartbreaking twist that no one saw coming. The crime scene wasn't just it was disturbing in ways that even seasoned detectives couldn't predict. As investigators put together the evidence, they uncovered a chilling sequence of events that would change the lives of everyone involved in the case. But the real twist? The killer confessed, but not before revealing a final, heart-stopping detail that no one saw coming. Stay with me as I walk you through a case of betrayal, rage, and unthinkable violence. A story where every new piece of information brings us closer to the truth, but also deeper into the darkness. This is the heartbreaking story of Deja Hood. This is just the beginning of a case that will leave you questioning everything about trust, rage, and what people are capable of. Welcome to Mind Twist True Crime Stories, where all our stories are based on true crimes. Kindly support us by subscribing to this channel. Hit the notification bell icon so you won't miss any of our latest stories. Deja Hood was just 18 years old, a young woman full of life, love, and dreams. She had big plans for her future, dreaming of going to college and starting her own career. Friends say she talked about becoming a hairstylist, using her creativity to make a name for herself. But above all, Deja was known for her kindness and ambition. She wasn't just a daughter, a sister, or a friend. She was also a caretaker. At just 18, Deja had stepped into the role of a young mother, balancing her own dreams while taking care of her one-year-old child. Her family described her as loving, responsible, and fiercely determined to create a better future for herself and her little one. She had such a beautiful soul, one friend wrote on social media. Another shared how Deja was always there to encourage others, lifting them up even when life weighed her down. Her former teacher called her Miss Hood, a student who lit up the classroom and left a lasting impression. Everyone who knew Deja agreed she was destined for great things. But on that September day, all of her dreams and aspirations came to an abrupt and violent end. A bright future stolen in an instant. And the question everyone is left asking, how could this happen to someone so full of life? Deja Hood was more than a victim. She was a beacon of hope to her family and friends. But who could betray someone so loved? And why? On the evening of September 25, 2023, Deja Hood left home to meet friends. It was supposed to be just another ordinary night. But when her mother tried to reach her hours later, there was no response. Calls went unanswered. Texts were ignored. Something wasn't right. Deja's mother knew her daughter wouldn't just go silent. She began calling friends, asking if anyone had seen her. The answers were vague, incomplete. No one seemed to know where she was. By midnight, the worry turned into panic, and the missing person report was filed. The family didn't wait. They started searching on their own, driving through neighborhoods, retracing Deja's steps, and calling anyone who might have answers. Every passing hour felt heavier, the silence more unbearable. Deja's mother couldn't shake the feeling that her daughter was in danger. The next morning, police joined the search. Their first stop? The last place Deja was seen alive, a small apartment where she had gone to help a friend pack. But instead of answers, investigators were met with conflicting stories and suspicious behavior. Deja's mother was right. Something was horribly wrong, and within hours, her worst fears would be confirmed in a way no parent should ever experience. Have you ever experienced that gut feeling when you just know something isn't right? Share your experience in the comments. The search had only just begun, but the truth about Deja's disappearance was already closer than anyone realized. What should have been an ordinary wooded area near the Holly Tree Apartments turned into the scene of a nightmare. For hours, police and family combed the grounds, following every lead, desperate to find Deja Hood. Her mother's fear had become unbearable, and the search felt like chasing shadows. But then, just behind a safety fence, a single discovery changed everything. A police sergeant, scanning the area for clues, noticed something unusual, a shape concealed in cloth, hidden in the brush. As officers approached, the grim reality set in. This wasn't a random object. This was the lifeless body of an 18-year-old who had been reported missing just a day earlier. She was wrapped in cloth, discarded like an afterthought, as if someone had tried to hide the truth. But there was no hiding what had happened here. This wasn't an accident. It was murder. How could a young woman with so much life ahead of her end up in such a horrifying situation? And why did the last person to see her seem to have more questions than answers? The discovery behind the Holly Tree Apartments was only the beginning. The truth behind Deja Hood's death was darker than anyone had imagined. What happened next would leave investigators stunned and a family shattered.
We begin this half hour with a developing story we're following. A teenager found dead behind a South Tyler apartment complex. Police have identified the victim and they're working to piece together what happened to her. Our Dan Millay is on the scene with the latest.
Deja Hood had only been reported missing for a day, but it was in this creek here behind the Holly Tree Apartments that Tyler PD found her body this afternoon.
We're told that Deja's family first reported her missing last night, so this has been a fast-developing case. Investigators are treating this as a homicide. Deja was just 18 years old. Police say she was last seen with a man that lives in the apartment complex. Police would not identify that man. He has been brought in for further questioning.
She was voluntarily down here, to our knowledge. That's what we know, is that she was down here. According to the family, she was picked up by this man, brought here, and then he's the last person to see her.
Tyler PD spokesperson Andy Urbaugh also told us investigators found evidence behind the apartment building that leads them to believe her body was placed in the creek. He added that as far as police know, there was no prior relationship between Deja and the man before this incident occurred.
When investigators pieced together Deja Hood's final hours, one name kept surfacing: Jamoria Britton. At 19 years old, Britton was someone Deja trusted, a friend who had asked for her help as he prepared to move. But as the details unfolded, trust would become the last word anyone would associate with him. Britton told police a simple story. Deja had helped him pack, and then she left with someone else. But as officers pressed for details, his answers didn't add up. His version of events changed, small inconsistencies creeping in with every question. The more he talked, the more doubt grew. Why did Deja's family say she had been with Britton that night, yet he claimed she left hours earlier? And why, when police entered his apartment, did they find more than just moving boxes? There were bloodstains on the walls and carpet, covered with black spray paint. Britton casually blamed his ex-girlfriend for the damage, but officers knew better. These weren't random stains. This was evidence. Britton's demeanor during questioning only fueled suspicions. He seemed calm, too calm for someone so close to a murder investigation. But his lies couldn't hide the truth for long. Under pressure, cracks began to show, and investigators were about to uncover something far worse than they had anticipated. What had really happened in that apartment, and why did a seemingly ordinary favor turn into a brutal crime? The answers Britton gave would send shockwaves through everyone who knew him. But his confession would change everything. It started with a single stain, blood on the walls and carpet of Jamoria Britton's apartment. But this wasn't a random spill. It was the beginning of a trail that led to answers police weren't prepared for. Officers noticed something unusual: black spray paint hastily covering parts of the wall. At first glance, it seemed like an attempt to hide damage, but luminol testing told a different story. Beneath the paint were streaks and splatters, marks of violence that couldn't be erased. Blood evidence placed Deja Hood in that apartment, but that was only the start. When questioned again, Britton's calm demeanor began to waver. Trapped by forensic evidence, he confessed. He described a fit of rage, triggered by memories of his ex-girlfriend, but his explanation didn't match the brutality of what happened next. Britton claimed that, in his anger, he lashed out, striking Deja. But investigators discovered the violence didn't stop there. His confession revealed a harrowing sequence of events. After knocking her unconscious, he used duct tape to bind her wrists and wrapped her body in cloth before dragging her behind the apartment building. He left her there, lifeless, as though she meant nothing. He admitted to cleaning the scene, painting over the bloodstains, and going on with his day as if nothing had happened. Britton called it anger. Police called it murder. But one question lingers. Why did Deja's life have to end in such a senseless way? But the story doesn't end here. There's more to uncover about what really happened that night.
Good evening and thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're learning more about the death of an 18-year-old Tyler woman whose body was found yesterday in a wooded area behind the Holly Tree Apartments near West Grande Boulevard. Tonight, 19-year-old Jamaria Britton is in the Smith County Jail accused of murdering Deja Hood. Tyler police say he was the last person Deja was seen with before being found dead. Tonight, KLTV7's JD Conti has more on what Britton is telling authorities about the moments leading up to Hood's death.
On Monday night, just after midnight, Lakita Jordan, the mother of 18-year-old Deja Hood, reported her missing. According to an arrest affidavit, Jordan said her daughter may be with Jamaria Britton. In police custody, the affidavit states he later admitted to Hood's murder. Britton was soon contacted by police, where he said that on Monday, he picked up Hood and a 1-year-old child that she was caring for and brought him to the Holly Tree Apartments, where he is a resident. An altercation began after Britton said he returned to the apartment to find the child under the stairwell. Britton said his, quote, fit of rage started after he said Hood tugged on his ear, which he says reminded him of what his ex-girlfriend would do. He began to beat Hood with an object and strangled her. A neighbor soon knocked on the apartment door to ask if everything was okay. After responding, Britton drove the child back to Hood's mother's apartment. When he returned, he discovered Hood was still alive and stabbed her. According to the affidavit, Hood was spooked by a neighbor while disposing of the body and therefore tossed her into a ravine. Police found latex gloves and footprints near a fence that blocks the ravine, as well as gloves and mud near Britton's car. JD Conti, KLTV 7 News.
And tonight, Jamaria Britton is being held in the Smith County Jail with bonds set at $1 million.
What started as a playfully escalated into something far worse, a crime so brutal it defied comprehension. Jamaria Britton's confession revealed a horrifying sequence of events. Deja Hood, a student at John Tyler High School, was last seen Monday evening after heading out with friends, including Jamaria Britton. When she failed to come home or respond to calls and texts, her family reported her missing at 12:40 a.m. on Tuesday. By 1 p.m. that same day, police arrived at Britton's apartment to question him. Inside, they discovered blood and evidence that led them to a horrifying discovery. Hood's body, wrapped in trash bags, tape, and a bedsheet, discarded behind the Holly Tree Apartments complex. According to an arrest affidavit, Britton confessed to the murder and gave a chillingly detailed account of the events leading to Hood's death. He explained that he had picked up Hood and a 1-year-old child she was babysitting on Monday night. Hood had agreed to help him pack for a move. While alone in the kitchen, Britton began reflecting on a recent breakup with his ex-girlfriend, and his emotions spiraled out of control. When Hood walked over and playfully tugged on his ear, a gesture that reminded him of his ex, Britton said he snapped. Consumed by what he described as a fit of rage, he grabbed a glass bottle and struck Hood on the back of her head, causing her to collapse. Britton admitted to punching and strangling Hood before picking up a hammer and repeatedly striking her head until the hammer's wooden handle broke. Amid the chaos, Britton attempted to take his own life by stabbing himself but failed. He then pointed a gun, purchased earlier that day, at his head. As he prepared to pull the trigger, a knock at the door interrupted him. A concerned neighbor, having heard the commotion, had come to check on him. Britton covered Hood's body and answered the door, assuring the neighbor that everything was fine. It was only then that he remembered the 1-year-old child sitting on his bed watching a movie. In an unsettling twist, Britton brought the child back to Hood's mother's home before returning to his apartment. But Hood wasn't dead. According to Britton, he heard her weakly calling his name when he got back. At that moment, instead of calling for help, he retrieved a knife and stabbed her multiple times, ensuring she wouldn't survive. Britton then wrapped her body and carried it out of the apartment around 3 a.m., dumping it over a fence where he thought no one would find it. Hours later, at 7 a.m., he returned to cover the body with leaves. Police arrested Britton, charging him with murder and terroristic threats. He was held in Smith County Jail on a $1.05 million bond. But why would someone take such extreme measures against a person who only wanted to help? Was this truly an explosion of anger, or was it premeditated? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. There's still more to uncover in this tragic story.
Tonight, prosecutors say they will seek the death penalty in the case against this Tyler man accused of beating a woman to death. Jamaria Britton is accused of killing 18-year-old Deja Hood last September at an apartment complex in Tyler. KLTV7's Gianni Windall has more on what happened in court today.
In April, Britton was indicted for an upgraded charge of capital murder. At that time, the state had not decided whether they would seek the death penalty. Today, they announced their decision to pursue capital punishment. According to police reports, Britton is believed to have beaten Hood to death in a, quote, fit of rage. Police say Britton admitted that he had become enraged after Hood playfully tugged at his ear. Hood's body was found wrapped in a bedsheet behind Tyler's Holly Tree Apartments on September 26, 2023. In court today, prosecutors submitted numerous pieces of evidence before requesting several months for continued status and discovery. Gianni Windall, KLTV 7 News.
For Deja's family, the news brought no solace. The mother who had tirelessly searched for her daughter was now left to grapple with an unimaginable loss. Friends and relatives described her as a bright light extinguished too soon. The heartbreak extended far beyond those who knew her personally. Residents of Tyler, Texas, gathered to mourn and demand answers. Candlelight vigils were held in her honor, and her name became a rallying cry for justice. The evidence was overwhelming, but was it enough to ensure Deja's family would see justice served? Could anything truly bring peace after such a horrific crime?
Those who knew her best say they will miss Deja's smile and her positive energy.
My heart just dropped because it was just so unexpected. And then the way she went was like uncalled for. Like, she didn't deserve that.
Deja Hood was missing for a day until Tyler police found her lifeless body.
Whatever happened to her is just like, it wasn't like believable.
Deja was killed by someone she considered a friend. That friend, Jamaria Britton, who is now in the Smith County Jail for murder.
From what I know, she was there to comfort him because he didn't have nobody to talk to about things.
Deja's close friends describe her as someone who was full of life and energy.
She was always smiling, happy. She had great energy. She was good-hearted too. She was very talented.
When you first meet her, it's like you know her already.
Deja recently graduated from Tyler High School. She had plans of moving to a big city and going to college.
She was working hard to leave, to get a car.
I hate that that got ripped away from her before it was even started.
I know for a fact whatever he did to her, she had a strong fight.
As they scroll through their memories with Deja, one post stands out to them. The Sunday before her disappearance, Deja posted this picture on Instagram with the caption, "Unforgettable."
I feel like maybe her spirit kind of knew that she was going to go before her actual body knew. You can put somebody in jail all day long, but you can't bring nobody back.
She adds that Deja will be remembered for who she was, not what happened to her, and they will continue to keep her memory alive. In Tyler, I'm Nirali Jaiswal with CBS 19.
As the case against Jamaria Britton unfolded, prosecutors escalated the charges. What began as a murder investigation was soon upgraded to capital murder, one of the most severe charges in the justice system. The state announced its intention to seek the death penalty, a move that underscored the gravity of the crime. For Deja Hood's family, the pursuit of justice became a relentless fight, and every court appearance brought a mix of hope and heartache. The final trial, scheduled for 2025, will be pivotal, not just for the outcome, but for the impact it will have on everyone involved. Prosecutors aim to prove that Britton's actions were not just impulsive, but calculated and brutal. The defense is expected to argue for mitigating circumstances, but the evidence presented so far leaves little room for doubt. If convicted, Jamoria Britton could face the ultimate punishment for his actions. But will the legal system deliver the closure that Deja's family and friends so desperately seek? Or will there be yet another unexpected twist in this heartbreaking story? What are your thoughts on this case? Should Jamoria Britton face the death penalty for his actions, or is there another path to justice? Your voice matters. Share your opinions in the comments below, and let's start a conversation. If you found this story gripping, there's more to uncover. Watch our deep dive into other real-life cases that defy comprehension. And don't forget to subscribe and turn in the notifications bell icon to stay updated on this case and many others. We're committed to bringing you the stories that demand to be heard. Together, we can bring attention to the voices that deserve justice. This isn't just a story, it's a reality that impacts families, communities, and our understanding of justice. Thanks for watching till the end. See you in our next story.